Riders, welcome back to the channel and to one of the most important videos of the year. As always, we've been testing modular helmets all year round to answer that one burning question. What is the best modular helmet of 2025? And that's exactly what we're going to learn in this video. Sit back, relax and let this video help you make an informed decision on your next modular helmet. The premise of this video is simple. Cut through any and all marketing language and personal opinions and simply present the facts. Objective data is the core of this video and also the best information to base your next purchase on. And yes, we're an online shop ourselves and we're transparent about it. Know that our channel evolves around one central idea. A happy and well-informed customer is a loyal customer, and it really doesn't matter to us whether the Neotech 3, the Subit C5 or the Alpha 91 is the right helmet for you. Our goal is simply to help you make the best purchase suited to your needs. In the calculations to make this video, our entire modular testing pool was included. However, only the top 10 are featured in this video. If there's any left out, it's because they unfortunately weren't able to rank among the best. And finally, we appreciate the fact that so many of you appreciate our content and the approach we have to product reviews in our top 10s. Your support doesn't go unnoticed and is the sole reason why we continue to make these videos. Let's get started. Alright, time for the very first segment, material. And here we follow our material matrix, which looks at two factors. First, the material the outer shells of our contenders are made of, and second, the amount of outer shell sizes. The amount of outer shell sizes is something that's an underrated detail of motorcycle helmets, but more outer shell sizes directly results in a more compact fitting helmet across all sizes it's available in. So let's see the results. Here at the top of the list is dominated by carbon fiber helmets, which is to be expected. The Alpha 91 Carbon has 4 outer shell sizes, the most of any helmet of this list. The X1005 has 3 shell sizes, explaining the half-star difference. Then the 3.5 star scorers are all carbon fiber helmets with just 2 shell sizes apart from the Neotech 3, which comes in 3 shell sizes, but it's made of fiberglass composite. Finally, the Exotech Evo Pro and the C5 are just a cut below the rest because of their fiberglass outer shell and 2 shell sizes. And last place unfortunately goes to one of our newcomers, the N106 with 2 outer shell sizes, but it has a polycarbonate shell. That's all for material, let's move on to weight. Here we use a scale that is accurate to the gram. All helmets are weighed on the same scale in the size M without any additional features like a communication system installed. We run the results to our modular weight matrix to determine star scores. Let's see the results. Coincidentally, the 3 lightest modular helmets are all flip-over helmets, which means that the chin bar is built to flip all the way behind the shell, with the Roof Boxer 2 being the lightest of them all. However, it's also the only helmet on this list that doesn't have an integrated sun visor, automatically giving it a weight advantage over the rest. Also, this weight graph shows why carbon fiber helmets are rewarded in the material segment, as the benefit of the material is clearly visible with how many carbon fiber helmets are near the top of the list. Of course, there will also always be exceptions like the X805 Ultra Carbon for example, but generally speaking, carbon fiber helmets are significantly lighter compared to the other materials. That's it for weight, let's continue to the visor segment. Alright, to properly judge the visor of these helmets, we look at all kinds of properties to determine a score, and here we use a visor matrix that includes all kinds of visor features and characteristics. Naturally, not every visor feature is equally as impactful on your riding experience, which is why we've weighted them based on what riders ask us about the most. Usually we start discussing the results by looking at the top performers. However, in this case it's best to start from the bottom of the list where the Boxer Carbon 2 sits with just 1 star. And the Boxer 2 is not pinlock prepared, it doesn't have an internal sun visor, its visor mechanism is loose to say the least, and the field of view is just decent at best. Fortunately, the rest of the list performed very well with their visors. Every one of them comes with a pinlock lens in the box and are equipped with an integrated sun visor. Out of the remaining contenders though, the 4-star scorers had an average to decent visor mechanism, largely due to the fact that they're pretty loose at times and are prone to being blown shut by the wind. The Alpha 91 Carbon and the C5 have every visor feature we mentioned earlier and also have a very good visor mechanism, and that's why they're slightly ahead of the 4-star scorers. However, the LS2 and Scorpion helmets at the top of the list earn their 5 stars due to the fact that they come alongside a dark smoke visor in the box. An extra that is very nice to have. And as for the Neotech 3, this helmet does not have an extra dark smoke visor, but it still earns 5 stars. How? Well, the Neotech 3 has the best functioning visor in terms of mechanism and closure out of this top 10. It has many different positions and it's rugged, which means, like we said earlier, that it's resistant to being blown shut by the wind. And that's it for the visor part. Let's continue to our first road test. Alright, here we find out to what extent our contenders are able to isolate the outside noise. And we do so by placing a decibel meter inside the helmet close to the ear of our test rider, and this device records the sound the exact same way as he hears it. And we take our measurements from long stretches of open highway riding an average of 130 km per hour. Finally, we run the results through our noise isolation matrix to determine star scores. Here's how they performed. The results show that the R491 Carbon was the quietest of them all, and the R491 series has been extremely dominant in terms of noise isolation. It stays 2 decibels clear of the competition and remains on top. Not to take away from the other helmets on the upper half of this list, as 98 and 99 decibels are still simply very good results, especially considering the drop in performance that we see after the top 4. Though it's worth noting that most of the helmets on the lower part of the list have a significantly lower price tag. It's unfortunate to see that our 2 newcomers tie at the bottom of the list. Honestly, experience has taught us that noise isolation is kind of a ruthless segment, and the newest and or most expensive helmets don't always end up on top. That's it for noise isolation. Let's continue to ventilation. Riders, be sure to subscribe because you don't want to miss our upcoming videos. We've got top 10s for every category on the way, and we've been testing brand new helmets from Climb, AGV and Shark. And you'll see it first on this channel. Okay, let's find out to what extent our contenders are able to keep your head cool out on the road. We measure this with a thermometer inside the helmet, measuring the inside temperature at all times. At the same time, we measure the outside temperature and compare the two. The lower the difference between the inside and outside temperature, the more stars a helmet earns. Let's see the results. Here, the list is not as exciting as in our previous segments, but it's honestly a very good thing, as this means that our contenders performed well across the board. From older helmets like the X1005 Ultra Garmin to the newcomers, the N106, all earning a great score. The Roof Boxer 2 also earns a much needed 4 stars to get back in the competition. However, the Scorpions didn't quite manage the same temperature difference as the rest. This is likely due to its unique ventilation layout, as this helmet has no exhaust at all. Naturally, this makes it harder for warm air to escape. That covers it for ventilation. Let's continue to comfort. The importance of this segment speaks for itself. A helmet can have the very best noise isolation and ventilation possible, but still not be the right choice if it doesn't fit comfortable on your head. So that's what we're about to address. However, this segment can present a challenge for us, as it's difficult to measure comfort in concrete numbers like we've done in the other segments so far. Therefore, for this segment only, we'll be partially relying on our test rider, who has also tested all the other helmets on our channel and can therefore make a comparison like no other. We also take the comfort features of a helmet into account, so let's see the results. Here, 2 of the most popular modular helmets in recent memory end up on top. Both Shoei and Schubert have a well-known reputation for making comfortable helmets. For example, the padding of the Neotech 3 is very soft on the touch and detailed. It has extra pads around the ears that make a subtle but significant difference. You'll notice it most when you switch from a Neotech 3 back to a different modular helmet. Now, many riders are just as positive about the Schubert C5, and our test rider included. Just like the Neotech 3, the C5 is a bit heavier compared to most other helmets due to the fact that it has speakers pre-installed and extra padding features like a neck roll, for example. Just below the top 2 is the R491 Carbon. Its interior is made with a soft but grippy material. The padding is removable, washable and has antibacterial properties, and combine this with its lighter weight and aerodynamic profile, and it makes for a very comfortable ride in the R491 Carbon. The rest of the list was quite similar to one another in terms of comfort. Of course, most modular helmets are best suited for a touring riding style and longer rides in general, so it makes sense that helmet brands prioritize comfort as much as they can. Once again, the Roof Boxer 2 was a noteworthy performance, just not in a good way. The inner liner of the Boxer 2 is way too bare bones for its price tag. The padding is removable and washable and adjustable by removing or adding small foam pads. However, even with the foam pads, the padding is very slim and it didn't have a great feel to it. That's it for comfort. Time for our next segment. Alright, let's talk features. Here we judge the bells and whistles that our contenders are equipped with. To do so we follow a features matrix that includes a wide range of features, but just like with the Visor, not every feature is equally as impactful on your riding experience, which is why they're weighed based on what riders ask us about the most. Let's see the results. Schubert takes first place here. Their C5, despite being out for some time out, still ends up on top. But why? Well, the C5 has the most extensive communication system preparations of any helmet on this list. Like I mentioned earlier, the C5 already has speakers pre-installed into the helmet. All you need to do is plug the SC2 communication system in the back of your helmet and you're good to go. Additionally, it's got an excellent flip-up mechanism, anti-roll-off system, PJ certification, and it's wind tunnel tested. Then you'll notice that most of the list earned 4 stars, and these helmets have speaker pockets, are well prepared for their own respective communication systems, just not to the same level as the C5 is, and in this price range they pretty much all have great finishes, good flip-up mechanisms, and they all carry a PJ certification. The Alpha 91 Carbon and the LS2 Advent X Carbon are the only helmets on this list to have an emergency quick release. However, the Advent X is also one of the only helmets here that is not wind tunnel tested. It's become a trend, but the Boxer 2 ends up at the bottom of the list, and it ends up there because it's missing many of the basic features. While you can install certain universal communication systems into it, it's missing many of the other basic features. No quick release, unlimited liner features. Also, the design of the Boxer 2 is easily recognizable with its horn flip-up mechanisms. However, they're not the easiest to use, and the shell itself is far from the most aerodynamic. That's it for features. Let's put these scores side by side and see which helmets were most impressive so far. Naturally, you want a helmet that performs well in as many criteria as possible, and this graph shows us exactly which helmets consistently earned a lot of stars. Take the top 3 for example. These helmets were very impressive pretty much all the way through, and especially in the latter half of the segments. At the same time, this overview also shows that certain helmets are most definitely out of the race for the title of Best Modular Helmet or a high ranking altogether. Of course, the Boxer 2 struggled throughout our testing, but also helmets like the Exotech Evo Pro were not quite able to keep up with the rest. Alright, let's continue to a very important segment, which is value for money. We've got a clear picture of how these helmets performed relative to each other, but what happens when we factor in the price? When 2 helmets perform similarly to one another, but one is half the price, then that helmet comes out on top in our rankings. Our value for money score consists of 2 factors. One is of course the recommended retail price, and the other is the average amount of stars earned. With these variables, a separate ranking is made based on which helmets offer the best value. Let's see the results. Here, the Alpha 91 Carbon actually takes the number 1 spot, and you might be wondering how is it even possible, as it has the highest price tag of any contender. Well, value for money doesn't always have to favor the budget-friendly helmets. In this case, and it's a rare example, the Alpha 91 Carbon had by far the highest average amount of stars, and with that it managed a pretty low euro per star rating despite its price tag, so well done to HSA. Then the Exotech Evo Carbon is a perfect example of a helmet with a relatively budget-friendly price tag, but managed an amazing value for money score due to its impressive star average at 3.8. It's interesting to see the Neotech 3 and the Schubert C5 end up in such a deadlock tie with identical scores at the end of our testing run. They managed to place ahead of the Advent X Carbon, a very noteworthy helmet in terms of value for money. It was able to keep up with the top performance in numerous segments while having a much more budget-friendly price tag. Now we've got all the data we need, let's continue to the final ranking. Riders, this is the moment we've been waiting for. We have everything we need, let's start at the bottom of the list. Unfortunately, I think we can all guess the number 10 spot. It goes to the Roof Boxer 2 Carbon. It struggled in every single segment apart from material, weight and ventilation, in most cases ending up at the bottom of the list. It must be said though that the Roof Boxer 2 Carbon has a different design philosophy compared to the others of this list, more tailored towards an urban/short trip commuters type riding style. Therefore it struggled to keep up with the heavy duty tourers of the rest of this list. And this is not the year of the newcomers, as 9th place goes to the N106. This helmet actually managed a 4-star score on 4 different segments, not something we can say about many 9th place finishers. However, the Nolan is held back by two poor performances. Those were on weight and noise isolation, and it also struggled on material due to its polycarbonate outer shell and two shell sizes, ultimately losing out on too many stars to place higher. Then the Exotech Evo Pro takes 8th place. This helmet is in a bit of a weird position as it's always kind of in the shadow of its Scorpion relative, the Exotech Evo Carbon. They have similar pricing, but the Evo Carbon is just slightly better due to its lower weight. The Evo Pro's main weaknesses were on weight and ventilation, where the lack of exhaust really showed as it was the warmest helmet on the list. The X1005 Ultra Carbon sits in 7th. This helmet had good performances on multiple segments. It earned 4 stars on material, visor, ventilation, comfort and features. Unfortunately, this helmet though is not without its weaknesses. It's also one of the heavier modular helmets and it struggled on noise isolation. Finally, it's also one of the more expensive helmets on the list, and these weaknesses were ultimately the reason why the X1005 ends up in 7th place. LS2 ends up in 6th place with their Advent X Carbon. This helmet was able to hold its own for most of the segments, with a 5-star score for its visor and 4 stars both on ventilation and comfort. So, why isn't it higher on the list? Well, in a competitive ranking such as this, helmets need to excel on multiple criteria. Unfortunately, the Advent X wasn't able to do so. 5th place is taken by the Scorpion Exotech Evo Carbon. Well, this helmet is kind of similar to the Advent X. Both helmets earned 5 stars for their visors and their weights are very similar. The Exotech was just slightly quieter on the road with a 1 decibel difference. It's also a tiny bit less expensive than the Advent X, so the Exotech does place ahead of the Advent X. But it was very close to being a tie actually. The first placing on the upper half of the list goes to AGV as they end up with their 2 Modular in 4th place. This helmet mainly excels with its consistency as it managed a 4-star score on 5 different times. Its only real weaknesses was on weight, where it earned 2 stars. And as we move to the very best modular helmets, a single low score like this can prevent the helmet from making it to the top 3. Nonetheless, the Tour Modular is an impressive modular helmet. Well done to AGV. Now we move on to the podium places. Who takes 3rd place? Well, even though this ranking is very complex and a lengthy calculation with many moving parts, 2 helmets actually managed the same exact score down to the decibels. 3rd place goes to both Schubert C5 and the Neotech 3. These modular heavyweights performed almost identically to one another. The Neotech 3 was half a star better on material and in our visor segment, but the C5 was stronger on weight and features, ultimately ending up with the same amount of average stars. They didn't allow each other for even an inch of space. So that leaves one helmet to take the title of Best Modular Helmet of 2025, and that is the Arfa 91 Carbon. It defends its title in flying colors, and this helmet is an absolute killer. It's HSA's ultimate modular helmet. Its price tag is high, but its performances are even higher. It's the quietest helmet out of the list, and it was among the top scorers in every single segment. Its average star rating is by far the highest of our contenders, rightfully making it the #1 modular helmet of 2025. And with that, this top 10 video comes to an end. The numbers have spoken and we're very curious to know what you guys think of the final ranking. Of course, we hope that these statistics help you make a more informed decision on your next modular helmet. Every modular helmet featured in this video is available at japanhelmets.com, where we have the lowest price guaranteed and very sharp discount bundles. More top 10s just like this are on the way, so subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video to know exactly when these videos release. Buy smart and ride safe. Until next time.